What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for a brand new episode here on our Sword 148 scale Re.2005. Today, my hope is to go ahead and get all the parts and pieces glued onto the aircraft, then to come in, do a little bit of gloss coat to get it ready for next episode for decals and weathering. So that is my plan. But of course, before we get into that, we need to come in and do some detail painting and install some fidgety parts. And the first thing is, of course, the propeller blades. Those have to be painted. We need to do a little bit of masking on that, and then of course installing the landing gear, the wheel bay covers, all that good stuff, plus any sort of aerials or pitot tubes, gun barrels, everything you can think of. We got to get it all on the model kit to prepare it for gloss coat. So let's go ahead and jump into our first time lapse. We're going to work on the propeller blades. We're going to make some custom masks and start up on our fine tuning, get all the fidgety parts on. So let's go ahead and get this party started, jump in here and see what we can do. All right, everybody, we are back, and I've done a little bit of work here. As you can see on the model, we've got our gun barrels installed, our landing gears are installed. I did have a little bit of issue with the landing gears. The way that they have you kind of assemble everything, they have you put the landing gear bays on after you close the wings up. Took a little bit of fine tuning to get those actually placed into where they're supposed to go. But no matter, we went ahead and stuck with it, sanded down, took care of some business, and eventually we got them in place. Now I moved over now to the landing gear bay doors, and I realized that the outer doors do not actually have any sort of equipment or actuators in there to go ahead and open or close those doors in real life. Now that's not really that big of a deal, but me being me, I want to go ahead and add in something that at least represents that a bit more artistically than to have nothing in there at all. So I went ahead and went through my spares box, found a couple of parts, and we're going to be using these little strips of styrene as actuators. We went ahead and trimmed them down, shortened them. We're going to glue them onto the floor of the wheelbase. One on each side will be perfect. Get those wrapped up, and I think it'll add a little bit of extra realism there to an area that's actually pretty Spartan. Also, we need to go ahead and work on the front exhaust ports. Those are resin inserts. We need to go ahead and sand those down, get them flattened, get them thinned out, so we can go ahead and just kind of tip them up in there and leave them be. If you don't sand them down enough, they actually look super pronounced, and I don't think that's how they're supposed to look in real life. So we're going to go ahead and just start in here for our next time lapse. We're going to clean up these two resin parts, get going on the wheel installations for the tail and the main wheel. I want to finish up the door covers, get some brake lines installed because you do see a couple of those in real life, and finally apply our first gloss coat. So back into that that time lapse, guys, so let's keep it going. We're getting there. All right, everybody, so we are back, and as you can see, the Re.2005 has all the parts and pieces glued on, painted, and we've got a gloss coat over the entire surface. We're looking pretty good. But now, instead of going ahead and doing what I normally would do, and that would be to apply the decals, I need to come in and do a little bit more detail painting. Because as you know, the version I'm building here for the Re.2005 has a white cross on the tail and a white band around the rear fuselage. So we're going to have to go ahead and mask that off and apply that. It's not necessarily difficult to do, just a little time consuming to get everything lined up. I also found out that when I applied my gloss coat, I had some pooling right here at the bottom of the fuselage. Now, lucky for me, that bit of excess future is actually right where the white fuselage band is going to go. So I can come in with some sandpaper and some files, go ahead and remove that, and that's going to be perfect. Then the white band will go right on top of that. I don't have to reprime, I don't have to repaint, I don't have to regloss. So that's going to be excellent. A couple of swipes of the jeweler file, a little bit of sandpaper, we'll have it sorted, no problem. We also have to come in here and figure out exactly where that white band is going to go. What I have seen in my references is that it actually sits a bit closer to the cockpit than to the tail. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of use my Mark 1 eyeballs. I'm going to figure out exactly what looks right to me based on my instructions and of course my references. And I think we'll be able to go ahead and mask that off, get it ready, and then paint it with some flat white. Most of the time it's a pretty easy thing to do, but of course with a fuselage you have rounded edges. This one here we have these concaved cutouts right behind the canopy, so that's going to be a little bit tricky to go ahead and get those pieces of tape to square up. Stick with it long enough, we'll get it eventually. Now moving on to the rear of the aircraft, we need to start working on masking off that white cross on the rudder. And that is a little bit trickier because we actually have a couple of different lines we have to go ahead and measure out, make sure that we are parallel and perpendicular on the arms of the cross, front to back and top to bottom. And to do that, I went ahead and went to my instructions and measured out a couple of things. And then I went to my decals and I made a little bit of a template based on some strips of Tamiya tape. That's going to allow me to have a consistent width from top to bottom and from front to back. Now to make the cross, I've actually used long pieces of Tamiya tape and I went ahead and outlined where the cross should be. I'm going to come in with a very sharp X-Acto knife blade. I'm going to cut out the inner portions to make sure that I have an open cross. So I'm just going to take a very sharp knife. I'm just going to trace right on the edges so I can go ahead and pop those pieces of tape out. Then we'll have our open cross ready for paint. Now, if you have a really sharp X-Acto knife, you do not have to put much pressure at all to cut through Tamiya tape. Just a little bit of pressure, just enough to get down through that layer of tape, but also not too much that you mar the plastic. I'm going to take my frog tape. I'm going to cut into small little rectangular shapes, and I'm going to use those and just kind of position them covering the tops of the rear stabilizers, sides of the fuselage, and of course, any area that might be susceptible to overspray. We'll take this really quickly, jump back into that time lapse. We'll apply the white band. And then after that is dry, we're going to go ahead and gloss the entire area over with some future so that we can come back next time and start the decal process. All right, guys, last time lapse, just a real quick stop there. Let's get this finished up. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, we are back. And so far, the Re.2005 is really coming along. All the parts are installed. Everything is painted. Everything is overcoated with gloss coat. We've got our white cross and our white band painted on. I got to tell you, I am having a blast with this particular build. This is as it looks right now. Everything's working out really, really well. The cross isn't exactly right, but you know what? It's close enough for my work here. We went ahead and installed the gun barrels, the propellers, the aerial, as well as the pitot tube. We also went ahead and drilled out openings that will be for our future clear parts for our navigation lights. Everything else is looking really smooth. We've got a nice gloss coat on there. We did overspray the white bands with more gloss just to make sure we're not going to damage them when we get to the decals. And I think, yeah, we are looking excellent for next episode. Now, speaking of the decals, I've never used sword decals before, but these look pretty nice. And as you know, we're going to be doing this version right here with the white stripes and the white cross. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to go over well. I did notice, however, that on our white decals for the crosses, we have a little bit of an emblem right in the middle of that. That's going to have to be cut out so we can use that to go ahead and put on our painted area, but I don't think that's going to be too bad to do unless for some reason there's an extra part and piece here that I could use, but I don't think that's the case. We'll just cut them out of the decal. Shouldn't be a problem. But that is it, guys. I got to tell you, I am loving this model kit. It's been so much fun so far. We're not quite out of the woods yet. We still have a little bit of work to do. We're coming up fast on Thanksgiving, and then after that should be 12 sprues. So I'm going to go ahead and try to finish this up over the holiday break so we can start getting you videos there on 12 sprues. Should have my introduction video coming out soon enough, but until our next episode, you guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Make sure to come on back for episode 7, the finale here on the Re.2005. And if I don't talk to you beforehand, you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you back here next week, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.